the European Union is investigating Apple, Meta, and Google parent Alphabet for potential breaches of the bloc's new Digital Markets Act. The new law has been in place for just 2 weeks. The EU's executive arm is showing new speed in going after companies that it believes are violating the EU's competition rules.
These decisions to open non-compliance investigation, they come only 2 weeks after the implementation deadline has passed and show that the DMA compliance is something that we take really seriously. Our 5 investigations, they concern Alphabet, Apple and Meta.
And the EU is exploring whether Google and Apple make it hard for app developers to steer consumers out of the tech giants' app stores and buy apps directly without commissions. The European Commission is promising decisions within 12 months. And for more on Apple's legal headaches and its businesses, I'm joined now by Pooja Nair. She is a business litigator and a partner at Ervin Cohen Jessup. Pooja, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm going to start with a pun because an apple a day may keep the doctors away. But recently it seems to bring out a new lawsuit every day for Apple after the U.S. Department of Justice filed a landmark suit against the company. Now a flurry of consumer class action lawsuits are being filed stateside. Can you explain what the issues are in these allegations?
Yeah, and they're almost exactly the same issue, which is typical in the legal system, especially with California plaintiff side attorneys, if a government entity like the FTC, or in this case the Department of Justice, brings an antitrust case that has implications for consumers, it's almost an invitation for plaintiff side consumer class action lawyers to get a class together. And if you compare the wording of the California and New Jersey class actions that have been filed, they draw a lot from the Department of Justice complaint.
And what's been Apple's response to some of these lawsuits?
It's a very muted response, which is expected. There have been other cases filed against tech companies on antitrust and monopoly issues, and these cases take a long time to resolve. I think from the point of view of the tech companies, they're really seeing it as the immediate risk is more of a headline risk than a risk in terms of what they're actually going to need to do to change their business, if anything. And so in response to that, what they have done is to provide kind of a muted response rather than to be very proactive. I think they've issued a press statement that they think that the initial DOJ filing is wrong on the law and on the facts, and not done much more to show any kind of concern, because they're really thinking with the way the things take, the timing through the legal system, they're not going to be looking at a trial in this case for years.
It will be very interesting to see which other consumers may come forward with complaints as well. When and what action might we see tied to these suits?
In terms of the consumer lawsuits, it's going to be focused on financial settlements or a money damages award against Apple that's multiplied by the number of users. That's really the bread and butter of consumer class action firms. The government's main goal, the Department of Justice main goal, is to probably get some kind of settlement or consent decree to modify Apple's behavior and open up some of what they're doing with the App Store and the practices that they complain about.
There seems to be a bigger push for courts clamping down on these tech companies here in the U.S., something it hasn't really done since it found Microsoft guilty of monopolizing back in 2001. But the EU has been more actively probing into tech companies like Apple, Alphabet, Meta. The bloc just fined Apple nearly $2 billion for breaking music streaming competition laws. Now under their new Digital Markets Act, they're investigating 5 more potential cases. Why are they being so aggressive, and ultimately, what is it that they want?
So it's really interesting. I think the European Union's and the European Commission's decisions are much more aggressive because the scope of their anti-competition laws is much broader. In the U.S., we're really the Department of Justice is trying to paint this case as essentially part 2 of the Microsoft settlement in 2001. But there's a lot of different issues, and I think they will have an uphill battle on some of their claims. But the law in the European Union is much stronger and more anti-competitive.
Well, how bad is all of this for Apple, in your opinion?
I really don't think we're going to see direct consequences for Apple anytime soon, or any push within Apple to change its practices to based on what's on the lawsuit. I think Apple is going to take its time with this. They're going to hire lawyers, then they're going to have a long, this is a long case. So I think they're looking at it in terms of the big picture, and they'll take advantage of how drawn out the legal process is. And I think it's also this current administration has been very active, both the Federal Trade Commission and the Department of Justice, in targeting the tech industry for anti-competitive behavior. I think there remains to be seen if the administration changes, if that will still be a priority. And I think that's really a question that could be significant in how some of these lawsuits are going to proceed. So right now, the FTC has a lawsuit pending against Amazon that I think is going to trial in 2026. There's the case that just happened with Alphabet, and so there has been a lot more activity targeting these tech companies, and there's still, because the process is so slow, we still have to see some of these decisions, and there's a lot of precedent on both sides, so it's not a slam dunk case for the government.
Yeah, there seems to be never-ending oversight that's coming their way at the moment. We will have to see how it all pans out. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your time today, Pooja Nair.
Thank you.